Hello and welcome to another Signal House webinar. Today we're going to be digging into everything Go High Level so that you are able to get 10 DLC A2P registered and approved on Go High Level very quickly. And the reason that we're digging into Go High Level is that we also want to announce the Signal House Go High Level application that we are hard at work developing today and are very excited about. We think this is going to be an amazing option for everyone. We're seeing 10 DLC approvals in under 48 hours. All of the automated one-to-one bulk group messaging that you could possibly want inside of your messaging solution, we have here at Signal House. MMS, SMS, personalized messages with GIFs, emojis, etc. Everything that your customers want to stay engaged and learn more about your company, we are able to offer. And so we're very excited to launch this really soon. But first, we want to get you approved on Go High Level to show that we know what we're talking about when it comes to 10 DLC, because we are so incredibly confident that you will love the Signal House app that we want to help you get verified and DCA elected on LeadConnector today. Because once the Signal House application is done, we're just going to port your number over from LeadConnector to Signal House, and you'll be sending messages seamlessly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in. So before we dive too far into the specifics with LeadConnector and Go High Level in general, we first should set a little bit of a baseline of knowledge and understanding. And so the first thing that I want to dig into is, what is 10 DLC A2P? What does that actually mean? What are we here to learn about today? And so 10 DLC just refers to 10-digit long code. So these are the phone numbers that we are all super familiar with. We use them every single day to communicate with our friends and family. They're phone numbers where the first 3 digits of that number correspond to an area code within the US. Now, A2P is that special designation that makes it to where a business can actually use that phone number to interact with and connect with its consumers. A2P stands for application to person. So this is any software system that is able to send a message from that software solution to your phone or your handset or your customer's phone and your customer's handset. And to do this, you have to go through a process called 10 DLC A2P registration. So you have to go through a process, a 2-step process, where your brand and your campaign are both reviewed. We'll dig into what each of those means here in a moment. But you have to review that brand and that campaign to make sure that you are essentially qualified to send messaging for that specific use case over the 10-digit long code channel with the carriers and all of the other partners that are upstream in the messaging ecosystem. So let's dig into that a little bit, that double click on the brand and campaign component of 10 DLC registration. So first, let's talk about the campaign registry, which is this third-party organization. They are a private company here in the US that oversees this process. So they essentially act as a database where all of your brands and campaigns are stored. And if you are a campaign service provider or a CSP, then you would already know about the TCR because you are able to log into your own TCR. And TCR, by the way, acronym the campaign registry. If you are a CSP, you already are able to log into your TCR account and get some work done there, get your campaigns approved, and also review them within there. But you don't have to be a CSP to do 10-digit messaging. I just want to make sure that you're aware of the campaign registry, which is sort of this organizational body where brands and campaigns are stored. And they also handle the process of verifying your brand, or at least facilitating the connections to verify your brand. And so what is your brand? Your brand is basically your company. So it's just you submitting information like your company name, your EIN or your tax ID, your company address, and the type of organization you are, either a private company, a public company, a not-for-profit, etc. And now a pro tip here, and something that I always want to make sure that people understand, is that you can get your EIN in a couple different places. So if you don't specifically know what your EIN is, this number, if you're a business owner, will be on your SS4 document that you get directly from the IRS. It will also be on your W-9. If you are an employee, this will be on your W-2, so your tax forms that you get at the end of each year, beginning of the next year for that tax season. Now, if you haven't been an employee long enough to get a W-2 and you're not a business owner, you can still find your EIN by contacting your accounting department or HR. They'll have this information for you and they'll be able to give it to you. So Once you submit your EIN and your business information, that is just queried against an IRS database. So long as all of that information matches up and lines up, you will get a big thumbs up in the form of an approval, which in this case is that your brand is verified. If you see that your brand is unverified, that means that it was rejected. So that information just did not perfectly line up within that database. Now, you are able to appeal this if it was mistakenly rejected. So if you are a brand new company, you incorporated 30, 60, 90 days ago, the IRS database just may not be updated with your company information quite yet. So if you have your W-9, SS4, etc., and you're able to use that to appeal, you can still get fully verified, your brand verified, and move on to the next step, which is campaign verification. So important point to note here before we jump into campaign verification is that you should only register one brand for your company. This is something that has always been a rule within the 10DLC ecosystem, but it's definitely something that the DCAs, which are the direct connect aggregators, these are the middleman companies that sit upstream of your messaging provider. So Signal House, we work with 3 different DCAs, and there's only 4 in the US that we're able to even work with. And so we have redundancy with 3 different DCAs that we send campaigns upstream from. But the important thing to note here is that those campaigns are reviewed by the DCA, and each of those campaigns are reviewed individually by the DCA. And so when you submit your campaign for review, again, you're only submitting one brand and you're submitting one or more campaigns under that brand, but that is something the DCAs are taking a little bit more seriously now. If they see the same EIN used across different brands, they will reject it. You need to have one brand per EIN, one brand per company, create multiple campaigns underneath it. So once you have created your campaign is essentially just your messaging use case. And so if you are using it for customer support, this will be a customer support use case. If you're using it for marketing, a marketing use case. And there's a lot of use cases that you could choose from within the bucket of standard use cases. Now, there are special use cases, but they're very rare to actually use. These are things like if you are in the business of like public alerts, for example, that's a special use case. Some political and educational traffic and things like that are also on the special use case side. If you are just doing normal marketing, your B2B or your B2C or your B2B2C or whatever the case may be, you're a business that needs to communicate with other businesses or your customers that are consumers, you will just use a standard use case that is either customer care, marketing, account notifications, etc. Now, the one key here is that there are mixed use cases where you can choose multiple different sub-use cases. Now, I am, by the way, going through this stuff rather quickly. One of the reasons that I am, just a heads up and a note for everyone who's watching, is that we have a lot of videos that dig into the nitty-gritty specifics on our YouTube channel of all of these processes, specifically what information you need to enter if you are going through your brand registration, specifically all of the elements of a perfect campaign registration, all of these things we have on our channel. We're going to be digging into some of those today, but I just want to make sure that you are aware we have dedicated videos for all of these different things. And so when you are registering your campaign, you do have the ability to register as a mixed use case. So if you know I have one telephone number and I want to use that for support, for marketing, for notifications, for everything with my business, there's really no reason for me to have multiple different phone numbers for multiple different purposes, then you can register what's called a mixed use case. There are 2 types of mixed use cases, low volume and just the normal standard. Now, the key difference here is how many messages you can send per minute with AT&T and how many messages you can send per day in total. So for AT&T, on a standard use case, you're looking at 240 SMS messages per minute. On a low volume, you're looking at 75 per minute. So it's a little bit different there. If you need all of your messages to go out at once, go standard use case. The other difference is going to be how many messages you can send a day in total, which is 6,000 on low volume. And there is no direct cap. Obviously, you can send 240 per minute with AT&T, so you can kind of extrapolate and do the math with that particular carrier. And for T-Mobile, both of them are at 2,000 messages per day. So you can kind of do the math there and figure out how many you would have on a standard campaign. But in general, I always tell people if you are sending less than 6,000 message segments per day, go low volume mix. There's a lot of reasons for this, but go customer support, go marketing, go account notifications. Make sure that you go mixed. The biggest reason for this is drift content. This is something that in the end of 2024 was a major sticking point for the DCAs, and still here in 2025, it's something that we do still see. And so what is drift content? Drift content is when you, for example, have a account notification phone number. So let's say I message my customer and I say, hey, just a heads up, your payment has been successfully processed. Great. That's it. I just sent it out. And let's say you respond and you say, hey, thank you. However, I'm having a really big issue with this one item on the website. Let's say you're a website builder, is your company. So I'm having this one really big issue on the website. Is there any way for you to help me? And you can say, actually, yes, you've just reached the limit here. We can increase that limit. It's just an extra $10 a month. You want to go ahead and add that. You have kind of now drifted from account notification to customer support to marketing. So there's 3 different use cases you've covered within the span of just 2 individual messages. Now, you do get a little bit of leeway from both the DCAs and the carriers when it comes to the content filtering they have in place. And again, we'll get into content filtering here in a little bit. But you have a little bit of leeway there, but it's still really important that you note that your messaging could get shut off or your messages could fail to deliver if it drifts from one use case to another, which is why I recommend having a mixed use case, because if it starts out notification, then it goes to support, then it goes to marketing, you're covered in all of those different use cases. And so there is no shutting off your messaging. There is no blocking anything that you're doing. You are totally good to go. So, okay, we've done kind of the background of 10DLC and what that review process looks like. It's individual. It's conducted by these direct connect aggregators. They are reviewing both your campaign submission and your website. We'll get into a website review here in a little bit, but we've kind of set the table with what 10DLC A2P is and the general review process. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into GoHighLevel specifically and talk about their LeadConnector product. So GoHighLevel's LeadConnector is actually powered by Twilio. Twilio is a large provider in the space that mostly works with ISVs or independent software vendors. It's a very much so a self-service messaging provider. They do offer support, of course, and they also have customer care and customer success. But in general, it is a lot of self-starting with Twilio, and you really have to be quite technical to build and integrate with Twilio. Luckily, LeadConnector does a lot of that work for you, but as we'll see as we dig in a little bit more, having a little bit more of a hand-holding experience could be super beneficial, especially if you are a small company or a company that sits in a little bit of a gray area from a use case perspective. So Twilio is what we call a tier 2 messaging provider. It means that they do not have all 3 carrier connections. So they don't have a connection with AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. I know for a fact that Twilio has 2 of those 3 connections. They're working on getting the 3rd right now. I don't actually know what that one is or which 2 that they actually have so far, but I do know that they are working on that carrier connection, and that tells us a couple really important things. And we'll get to those here in a minute. The key is that you need to know for right now, though, is that they're a tier 2 provider. They send their traffic through an upstream connection to get to the carriers. The primary DCA that they use is a company called Cineverse. Now, Cineverse is a wonderful company. We work with them as well, but they currently also need to send their traffic through another DCA for a specific carrier called Infobip. Now, Infobip is another company that Signal House also works with. And so we have a good relationship with both of these. They're both amazing DCAs. But what's important for you to know is that Twilio is sending your traffic through not 1, but 2 parties prior to it going through to the carrier. So when you are on GoHighLevel and you click send, you are going from GoHighLevel to LeadConnector to Twilio to Cineverse, to Infobip, to the carriers, to the handset. There is a lot of jumps and hops in that process. In each of those jumps and hops, there is room for error when it comes to the message actually being able to deliver. And when it comes to the actual 10DLC review process and getting your campaigns approved, there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen reviewing your submission. And the way that I kind of describe it is that each different company that reviews it is almost like a circle in a Venn diagram. And so for Twilio, Twilio has their own internal vetting and DCA that they have set up on their end. So they have a full team that are reviewing your campaigns before they go to Cineverse. Cineverse has a full team and Infobip has a full team. So now we have 3 different circles that are a part of our Venn diagram, and it makes that center of it, what you actually need to get approved, a little bit stricter and a little bit tighter. That needle is a little bit harder to thread than if there was only 1, for example, review process, because you would only need to know how that specific company is going to review your campaigns. And here's the dirty secret that a lot of people won't tell you, but I will. And that is that different DCAs, while they all have the same framework, that the carriers and CTIA, just an industry organization, provides them to review, each DCA is going to review it a little bit different. And each DCA has a massive staff of individuals who are actually the ones reviewing each of these 10 DLC submissions. So in turn, you have individual people who themselves believe that they know what is the most important to review, and they kind of have their items that are sticking points. And then you have organizational sticking points. And then you multiply all of those. And again, you can see how this circle that you have to meet to get approved gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And it's also not always clear where that rejection actually comes from. So if I know that this was rejected at Cineverse, then I can say, okay, I know that these 3 items are really important to Cineverse. Let me double check to make sure I have all those 3 items dialed in. Now, if you don't have that visibility, you just know that it got rejected. And they might say, okay, so you got rejected for your privacy policy not listing this specific element. So you add that element, but in that element, there was some wording that another DCA didn't like. So now you got rejected for the change that you made based on the other rejection. And so we've talked to a couple of GoHighLevel customers, and we understand that you guys are frustrated because you just continually see rejections, and then you make changes and you see more rejections. And so we're just trying to provide a little bit of education and insight into what that upstream process looks like and explain a little bit of why you're seeing all those rejections. Now, let's compare that with Signal House. So we ourselves, again, we're tri-redundant. We partner with 3 different DCAs. I'll just tell you who they are. They're Infobip, Cineverse, and then we work with another company that sends their traffic through the other DCA called Cinch. And so with that sort of redundancy, we have the ability to pick and choose what DCA that we want to work with. So in general, we have one additional review that happens prior to your traffic hitting the carriers or prior to your campaign getting reviewed. So we will review your campaign, but we are on your side. We want you to get approved. We're not just going to reject your campaign and say, no, this was rejected. You need to change this. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, hey, Jim, this is why your campaign is not fully approvable. I'm obviously not going to reject it, but here are the elements in your call to action and your message flow and your sample messaging. This is something on your website that I identified. Let me help you fix this. If it's on your actual submission, are you okay with me fixing it for you so that we can improve your chances of getting approved? Or if it's on your website, let me walk you through the specific changes. Let's hop on a Zoom, share our screens, and get this figured out. This is something that you don't generally get with the self-service that is inherent to a Twilio. And so they're going to reject it. You're not going to have as much of an understanding of why it was rejected. And then you're just going to have to send it again and hope that you do not have an additional rejection. And so that manual review is going to happen at Twilio. It's going to happen at Cineverse, and it's going to happen at Infobip. And what's important is that all of these companies are very large and they have their own internal SLAs. So 1 to 3 business days, 3 to 5 business days for each of these individual reviews that they're going to do. So each rejection you get just kicks that time frame out even more, because if you get rejected at DCA 1 or if you get rejected at Twilio, then you have to now fix it, submit it back. It's going to be another 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 days. And then after they approve it, now it's going to be another 1 to 3 to 3 to 5 days. At Cineverse, 1 to 3, 3 to 5 days at Infobip. And so you're kicking the can down the road every single time. It's just an additional 15 business days, maybe a business month before you're able to send messages. And so this is something that you need to be aware of. The other thing, and so I talked about how Twilio has 2 of the 3 carrier connections. Something that I want to dig into a little bit deeper here is that to get your carrier connections, to lock your carrier connections in, you have to be a very compliant company. You have to be very conservative with the traffic that you actually let onto the airwaves, because DCAs have a dual mandate. One mandate is to have all of the business messaging traffic flow in the US so that consumers can get the text messages that they need from businesses. And so as a consumer, you might be thinking, well, I mean, come on, I get a lot of spam text messages, etc. That's obviously not what we're talking about here. We're talking about your doctor being able to send you a notification. We're talking about a reminder for that appointment that you otherwise would not know to go to, but you really want to go to. These are messages that you not only need, but you want and you have overtly consented to. These are the messages that the DCAs are tasked with getting to recipients' handsets, and there's only 4 of them in the US. And so it's a lot of traffic that pumps through there. But on the flip side of that is that they have a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of responsibility of these DCAs to make sure that scams and spam and other unwanted traffic does not get on the carrier networks. And so the carriers care so much about what your internal compliance posture is like and what that process looks like for someone to both get approved and send messages on that carrier network. And so why that's so important is that right now in Twilio's lifespan of a company, they have never been more conservative with the type of campaigns that they will allow and the type of traffic that they'll allow on their networks than they are today. And you see this at GoHighLevel with the rates of rejections with LeadConnector. So again, we've heard that a lot of people get first-time rejections at GoHighLevel. We've also heard that message delivery rates are hovering around 70 to 85%. And that's because Twilio, again, just has to be very, very conservative right now. And because they're super conservative, there are issues with things getting approved and traffic getting out. Their internal content filtering, which is for Twilio, is going to be algorithmic. So basically they have your chat GPTs and your Geminis and these other AI tools. They basically have used AI to train an AI model to identify, based on existing known scams, like scam text messages that have been proven to be scams, and spam messaging, what the likelihood based on different keywords and the phrasing of the message and everything else. Based on all those factors, they can identify a probability that that is a scam or spam. Now, again, they want to minimize the amount of complaints that they get and the amount of complaints that bubble up through their network to the carriers. And so they have to be very, very conservative with this. What that means is that you can have lower delivery rate with LeadConnector than you would with another messaging provider, because again, LeadConnector is powered by Twilio. Twilio has strict content filtering, it's algorithmic content filtering. They are going to filter out a message that another messaging provider would totally let you send on their airways. What this is going to mean for you is it's going to mean that your messaging campaign that you're sending out is going to be the same exact campaign, A/B test across two different messaging providers. LeadConnector is going to give you a worse result. And the worst result is solely because of Twilio being the upstream connection. And so I think that's really important. I just want you to know that for your own sake, is that your messages could be throttled and they could be filtered unnecessarily just based on the compliance posture that Twilio is in today. And so one final thing that I want to talk about is phone numbers with LeadConnector. And so one thing that I've talked to a couple of GoHighLevel users is that they call someone, it says scam likely, it says spam likely. And again, this isn't LeadConnector's fault. This is something that we have discovered with Twilio's number pool. And so Twilio has a number pool where they let you recycle numbers or buy a number and then release a number really whenever you want. There are some constraints on it, but it's not the 90-day hold that the FCC recommends. And so the FCC recommends that when you buy a telephone number as a business, you hold on to that number for at least 90 days. They want to prevent people buying numbers, sending out a bunch of scam messages, and then just releasing the phone number, because that scam message phone number could be one that you just pick up when you buy a new phone, or you get your kid their first phone, they get their first phone number, and that could be the phone number that they are assigned is one that was recently used by a spammer or a scammer. And so they want to reduce that likelihood because that phone number has basically a history attached to it. It has a reputation, the phone number does. And so we want to make sure that that is not the case. And so what happens with Twilio allowing you to recycle numbers within that 90-day time window is that your phone numbers will show scam likely or spam likely until you go through voice attestation and the shake and stir verification. So it's something that's inherent to Twilio. We do not have that with our phone numbers because our number pool that we subscribe to, it's number wholesale is the number pool that we subscribe to. Again, fully transparent. I am so transparent because I just want to arm you with the information that you need. So we use number wholesale. It's a sister company to a company called Number Access, who we also have a very good relationship with. And so just wanted to get that out there, is that you will see scam likely and spam likely with Twilio numbers or with LeadConnector numbers. This is specifically when you're calling people until you go through that voice verification because of the recycling of numbers that they do. You do not get that with another provider. So, okay, let's now dig in to some other items. So let's dig into the essentials that you need to know to get your brand verified quickly and your campaign registered quickly. And then we're going to kick it over to some questions. So this is going to be as informational as possible, but it's not going to be an in-depth masterclass, because we do have in-depth masterclasses on our channel that you can go to that will show you exactly how to register your brand and campaign down down to copy and paste this description and put your company name in here, and this is going to be helpful for you to get approved. So first, let's start on brand. I'm just going to go over the most common mistakes that people do when they're submitting their brand, and it's really only one thing, and that is if your company is a subsidiary of another. So you are a DBA of another company. Which company do you actually register for? Which EIN do you use? What address and everything else? And so the key here is that the legal company name, when you're submitting your brand registration, should be the legal company name of the parent organization. So if you have a parent organization, that is the legal company name that you want to use on your brand registration. Now, if you are a DBA, you want to put your company, so let's say the parent company is Alphabet. So obviously it's Google's parent company, but parent company is Alphabet and you are company A. So the legal company name would be Alphabet. You would put in company A as the brand name or DBA name. As far as the EIN, you would use company A's EIN because you have to register the brand that is doing the messaging, not the brand behind the brand. So you're not registering the parent company, you are just denoting that there is a parent company. You are the DBA and you are registering that DBA. So the EIN, the address, all of that information is going to be for the DBA in that situation. Now, obviously, if you're a small business and you do not have any subsidiaries or a parent company or whatever the case may be, legal company name and brand name are going to be equivalent. So they're both going to be your company name. That's really it. When it comes to brand, everything else is quite self-explanatory. Oh, actually, there is one more thing. I just thought of it off the top of my head. So on your support email address, on your brand registration, one thing that you should do is make sure that the support email domain matches your website domain. And so if you are jim@companyaa.com, make sure that you don't register it as jim@companyc.com or at gmail.com. You want it to match that domain of the website that you are providing. And a little bit about the website. So the website that you're providing should be a website that you actually give customers when you're going through the process of providing them a means of consenting to your messaging. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your specific web presence. If there is a landing page or a link that you provide your customers that is the opt-in to receive messaging link. So your website might have this link on the website to where if you want to opt in, click this link and then it goes to a form and they can fill it out. That's the web presence that you would want to include. It doesn't necessarily have to be attached to your domain or anything else. It just needs to identify your brand and have all the essential elements for a call to action on your consent form. So perfect transition. Let's talk a little bit about campaigns and the items that some people mix up when they are submitting their campaigns. And let's start actually with that call to action, that CTA. So on your website, you need to have these essential elements anywhere a customer can put in a phone number to submit their information for you to contact them. So it has to have the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, and the cost. So let's break each of these down individually and explain it. So the first is the who. This is your legal company name. So you need to have that you are consenting to receive messaging from company A. Now, pro tip, also put what type of messaging. So this is the what. So you can put this all in one sentence, makes it super short and easy. You consent to receive customer support messaging from company A. That's the who and the what already. So what about the when? The when is going to be, when can I expect to receive messaging from you? So this is where people generally put message frequency may vary, but if you actually know the message frequency, so it is a monthly newsletter, etc., then just put that. However, if you are just doing normal B2B, B2B2C, whatever the case may be, message frequency may vary. What about the where? Where can I see your privacy policy? And so here you just want to link the privacy policy within this. And so generally it's at the end. You can see our privacy policy linked here and then just link the privacy policy. Pretty simple. Now, what about the how? How can I opt out and how can I get help? So generally it's to stop to opt out and text help to receive help. Now, final one is cost. This is generally just message and data rates apply. So when you put all of this together, you could see a CTA that is similar to something like, by putting in your phone number, checking this box and hitting submit, you consent to receive customer support messaging from Signal House. Message frequency may vary. Message and data rates may apply. You can always opt out by responding stop. Get help by messaging help. and you can see our privacy policy linked here. So for a customer support campaign, that is perfect. And you can also add in multiple use cases within that one CTA, except for marketing. So this is the one key, is that if you have marketing as your use case, you actually need to have 2 call to actions on your website. The first one can be the one that we just went over for customer support. The second one needs to be marketing. So it can say the exact same thing as the first one. You consent to receive messages from company A. It just, instead of customer care messages or customer support messages, it needs to say marketing messages from company A. Everything else can be identical. And then the one other key here on that call to action is that you should not make the box required to select. So if the phone number is required to submit, and you have that checkbox there of by checking the box and clicking submit, that checkbox should not be a requirement. It should be optional, because someone might submit their phone number because it might be a part of the registration process for any number of reasons, but you do not want them to have to select that button to opt into your message. They should be able to choose whether or not they actually want to opt in to receive more from you. And so moving on now from the call to action on your website is the privacy policy. And these are the 2 things that they're really reviewing on your website, your web presence, when you are reviewing the campaign. Now, they're also reviewing your submission that you would do on LeadConnector or through Signal House or on the campaign registry directly if you are a CSP. And we'll quickly go through those at the end to talk through kind of what you would need to have there. But again, we have a pretty good masterclass where we walk through a TCR account and also walk through the Signal House website to show you specifically what each of those looks like. And so talking about privacy policy and what is important on your privacy policy. So there's really 2 things that they're looking for. Now, the first one is going to be an SMS disclaimer. So the SMS disclaimer basically just needs to repeat what you have in your CTA. So it needs a little blurb about who you are, what your company does. So it's, again, just identifying your company, but we're going the extra step by describing what it does. So company A, in this case, is a landscaping company. So we're going to say that company A is a landscaping company. So that takes care of the SMS disclaimer, other than just repasting the CTA. So the CTA of message data rates may apply, stop to stop, help for help, etc. Add that in. Message frequency may vary, message data rates may apply. All of that should be in the SMS disclaimer. And then the other thing that they're looking for is a statement that says one of 2 things. And so they really want to see you say, we do not share or sell data to third parties for marketing or promotional purposes. But here's the catch, is that you might do that as part of your business because it's not illegal to share and sell data. And in fact, in some industries, it is a requirement. You may actually have to share and sell data to complete a deal. And so if that is the situation for you, you can add this caveat. So you can say, SMS opt-in data is not shared or sold to third parties for marketing and promotional purposes. You can say that directly, or underneath where you talk about sharing and selling, you can say that SMS opt-in data is excluded from any of the above cases for which data is shared and sold to third parties for marketing and promotional purposes. And now, quick caveat, I'm not an attorney. I am just saying what the 10DLC process, what that requirement is. Talk to your compliance team, talk to your attorneys and everything else. But that is what they are looking for when they review your privacy policy. Now, final thing before we transition into the questions, we're seeing a lot of questions in the chat, which is amazing. We're super excited to answer every single one of them, is what they're actually looking for in your submission when you are submitting it through LeadConnector or through Signal House or through the campaign registry directly. What key elements of each of the submission items that they're really looking for. And so as we look at the description, the key is just that it's broad and accurate. It talks about who your company is, what you do, what kind of products you sell, what customers you work with, etc. The sample messages, so you're going to have the ability to submit at least 1 sample message. You should submit 1 sample message per use case. So if you have a marketing, customer care, and account notifications campaign, mixed use case, you should submit 3 different sample messages, 1 for customer care, 1 for marketing, and 1 for account notifications. That way, when the reviewer is reviewing this, they can have an idea of the type of messages that you're sending. Now, your sample messages should always have 2 elements. One of them is who you are. This is, X from Signal House, and the other end of it, at the end, you need to have how they can opt out. So respond stop to opt out from future messages from Signal House. So what about the CTA and message flow? So this is the number one thing that the DCAs are reviewing on your actual submission, but this one's actually pretty easy to get right. So the key here is that you have these individual reviews like we've talked about of your campaign during this 10 DLC review process. This is just a normal person that is working a 9-to-5 job. Don't make them dig and hunt and everything else to figure out how someone is opting in to receive messaging from you. Walk them through the process. Just take a little bit of extra time, walk them through exactly how this process works. So if they're going to your website and they're seeing a link that says click here to learn more from us or opt into messaging from us or whatever the case may be, just write that down. Say they go to our website, the link is here. They then see in the top right hand corner a section that says click this button to hear more from us. They then see a lead form. On that lead form, they have the ability to put in their information, and then they see these 2 checkboxes that they can check. And so when I say 2, I mean this would be for a mixed use case, because I just want to make sure that you're reminded by that if marketing is one of the use cases, and I would always recommend marketing be a use case just because you want to be able to sell your products. So let's say one of them is marketing, one of them is customer support. They see those 2 options. They're able to click which one they want to receive messaging from. Now just copy that CTA directly and paste it there. Copy the CTA and say, this is what the call to action actually looks like on the website. Copy it, paste it in. They're going to be able to review all of that right there within your call to action, your message flow. That will get you through that portion. Now, what about the opt-in, opt-out, and help messages? Because you have to create a standard message that a user is going to see whenever they opt in, respond stop, or respond help. So the key here, it changes a little bit with each of the messages, but for opt-in, you want to have your company name, the type of messaging, and how to opt out. So this is company A, you are receiving customer support messages, or you've opted in to receive customer support messages from company A, respond stop to opt out. Your opt-out message has to confirm, so it also has to have your company name, but it has to confirm that you won't send any more messages. So for example, you have successfully opted out of messaging from company A, no further messages will be sent. Respond start to opt back into messages from company A. Now the start part is not necessary. I would include it because if your customers accidentally opted out, they obviously will want a way to opt back in, so it's good for you. But the key components there are that you have to overtly tell them that you will not contact them again, and that you identify your company. Now, the help message is going to be the one that actually requires the most for some reason, but it is. And so the help needs your company name. It needs to have a support contact, which is either an email or a phone. It can't just be go to our website for support. You have to have either an email or a phone number there, how to opt out, and a link to your website. So generally, I just put the company name first. So company A with a colon, and say, you are now receiving help from company A. Go to our website for further support. Here's the website. Or you can contact and then either put an email or a phone number, respond stop to opt out of messaging from company A. So if you have those elements on your submission that you're doing on the campaign registry or on LeadConnector or on Signal House, and you have a website that's approvable with everything in your privacy policy and the CTA, you are going to be fast tracking approvals even with LeadConnector and Twilio. You'll still be able to get approved there. And again, we want you to get approved there because we can port your number over to Signal House and we know you're going to love it anyway. So we want to get you messaging quickly because you messaging and the messaging ecosystem is what we care about the most. So, okay, let's transition now. We have about 10 to 12 questions that we have from the audience here. And so we're going to dig through those, answer them to the best of our abilities, and then we will get on out of here. So, all right, so question here. The first one is from Kyle. So Kyle is an agency who registers multiple companies under his GoHighLevel brand. I said, should I register them under my company or their own? And so this is a really good question. So if you're an agency, you do not want to use your EIN and your company information to register a separate entity. And there's 2 reasons for this. The first reason is that if they send out anything that is untoward or they get in trouble in some way, they're doing that under your company. So you are the company that can get in trouble. The way that that generally manifests is at first, and assuming that it's not some type of financial scam, like an outright illegal message, the first thing that's going to happen is that the carriers are going to start lightly filtering your messages. So every 3rd or 4th message, or they might say, we're not letting you send any more for the next 10 minutes. They have their own internal algorithms that do this. but you will see that not every message is being delivered. The next step of this is that no messages are delivered. And a step up from that is that your EIN, or actually first your campaign, gets deactivated. So they no longer let you send any messages on that approved messaging use case. And then a level up from that is they block your entire EIN. And that is basically a death of your company for outbound SMS marketing. And you don't want that to happen. And so be careful. Do not register them under your own brand. But also, drift content plays a role here as well. And so it's not drift content in the realm of customer support messaging drifting into marketing. We're talking more about the company drifting into another company. And so if I register as company A and then I say, hey, this is Jim from McDonald's, do you want any additional like items with your order or whatever the case may be? They're going to flag that and they're going to say this could potentially be a scam of someone using company A's information to try to act like they're representing another company. And so you could be, again, an agency who is just registering people. You want to make it easier and seamless for them and everything else. I get that. I fully understand that. Make them use their own information. And if they don't have a web presence, just shoot me a message. I'll tell you a great way to make sure that you can provide them a web presence. So that's something that we do offer, is providing our customers with a web presence if they don't have one, because we want to empower small and medium-sized businesses regardless of how tech averse or what your tech acumen actually is. So Stefan asks, I'm having a rough time getting approved. Are you saying it should be possible to get approved on LeadConnector today? So the today part, I don't think is really what the question's turning on. Like, can we get approved on LeadConnector? The answer is yes. Today, maybe. It depends, right? There's generally an SLA of 1 to 5 business days, depending on the company. Generally, again, at Signal House, less than 48 hours. The last one that we processed through was 24 hours, pretty much exactly. And so we're seeing pretty quick approval timeframes with that. I know people are struggling with LeadConnector, but the answer to your question is yes. If you took the advice that we did in this webinar and you implement that, you will be able to get approved. And if you're not, reach out to me, because I want to review your campaigns and review your website myself. And I want to help you overcome those rejections, because you should absolutely be able to get approved, because everything that we're talking about today are things that we have used to get 5,000 campaigns fully DCA elected over the last 3 to 5 years. And so we have a lot of experience in this space. We've pretty much seen it all with all the different use cases. And so, yes, you should absolutely be able to use what we're teaching today to get approved on LeadConnector. So Lisa says, when is the app going to be done? We need it tomorrow. So Lisa, this is a very good question. I can't give specific timeframes, or our product and engineering team would kill me. But we are going at this as quickly as possible. The mantra that we're using internally is that GoHighLevel users are on a deserted island, and the only way to get fresh water to that deserted island is to send a message via Signal House. So we are treating this as quite literally the top priority to make sure that we're able to finalize that application so that you're able to use it. And we're going to be doing a pilot program where GoHighLevel users can offer to use it a little bit earlier. And so during our, what we'll call a beta phase. And so there could be a couple inconsistencies, wherever the case may be, but we want to get feedback. We believe that people do business with people, and we take feedback, we implement feedback, and we use that feedback to make sure that we have the best product. And so we find it super valuable to work with our customers to understand what their needs are. So be on the lookout for that. We will be offering people to join a little bit early, with the caveat that there could be a couple of issues, and that we will want to use your feedback to help make our product better. So if you're interested, shoot me an email, will@signalhouse.io. Okay, so Larry says, if someone sends something they shouldn't, is that going to come back on me? So Larry, I kind of answered this question a little bit with Kyle's question, but the answer is it depends. And so if they are sending it under your EIN, under your company information, on your campaign, yes, it definitely can come back on you. Now, what I will say is this, and this is not a license to do whatever you want, and I mean this, not a license to do whatever you want. However, we have operated with good actors in the space of messaging for, oh my gosh, now we're coming up on like 5 years now of doing this. So half a decade that we've been in this space. I have never seen an EIN actually get fully blocked. Now, I've heard of it, and if you are a scammer and you're doing actual scams, then yes, you will get blocked and you should get blocked. But if you are a good actor, you're not going to accidentally get your EIN blocked. So if they send out something they shouldn't, there are a series of escalations that happen. And especially if it was a one-off, if it was a mistake, or if you hired a person that just did something they shouldn't have, that should not irreparably damage your company. But you want to make sure that you do the best job that you can to ensure that you're not sending out traffic that you shouldn't, because it can, in some instances, come back and bite you. So Miguel said, my campaign is being called high risk, but I'm not sure why. I don't work in finance, and I looked it up, and that's generally what they do for high risk. And so, Miguel, you're right. Finance really is generally what high risk is, especially loans. And so on your the campaign registry account or on LeadConnector, or if you submit through Signal House, there's a button that you click rather, that is whether or not you are in direct lending. And so if you do lending or financial services, they do consider that to be a little bit of a high risk situation. That's only because scammers, obviously financial scams, pay, whereas a scam that is not financial in nature is not going to pay as much. So there's the opportunity to make more money as a bad actor in the financial space. And so they are a little bit stricter about that. Now, there are still ways that you can get approved in finance. Again, if you are a good actor and you're doing things the right way, but it is going to be a little bit high risk. Now, if you don't work in finance, I don't understand why you would be considered high risk. So finance is generally the one that I see the most with high risk. I have seen it for a couple other really niche use cases. But with what you're saying here, I would want to learn a little bit more about what industry you are in, so that I can provide a little bit more guidance. Miguel in the chat just said construction. So no, Miguel, if you're in construction, there is no way that you should be called high risk. So again, these 10 DLC campaigns are reviewed by an individual person, and individual people make mistakes. So there can be some instances where you do have that happen. I recently talked to someone at a DCA, and they mentioned that when they approve it, they generally see a 97% success rate with additional approvals and everything else. And so that 97% is not 100 because of human error. And that totally makes sense. So I might see something and I might say, that should not get approved. And someone else might say, yeah, that definitely should be approved. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Or I could just misclick and accidentally click that it was rejected when it shouldn't be. So reach out to me, Miguel, and I will take a look at that. So will@signalhouse.io. So Esteban says, I don't get it. How are you able to get accounts approved quickly, but LeadConnector can't? And so it's a really good question, Esteban. And it just comes down to our close connection with our DCAs and our upstream partners and how we have that redundancy that I talked about earlier. So we are partnered with 3 different DCAs. And one negative aspect about this for us as our company, and kind of a sacrifice that we're making here, is that you get volume-based discounts for working with one individual partner. The reason that we go redundant like that is because if one DCA is having issues with getting approvals, we will just seamlessly send something through another one 2 minutes later or the next day or whatever the case may be. So we have the ability to live switch between different DCAs so that we are able to make sure that we always have campaigns getting approved quickly. And then we also take a step that LeadConnector and Twilio don't, and that is that we create a use case with our customers and the DCAs. So we don't necessarily CC our customers on like emails to the DCAs, but what we do is we do introduce our customers to the DCAs, and we say, we are onboarding this customer. This is the space they're in. This is the website. What do you think about this? These are the customers that they're working with. We get to know our customers, and we make sure our upstream providers know our customers. Because if they know our customers, they know the use cases, they understand that our customers are good actors just trying to connect with their customers via the SMS channel, they are going to help us versus being defensive about, I don't think that should get through. I don't think that should get through. If I don't know you and I'm just seeing blind resumes, I could reject something that is perfectly above board. And so that's the reason why we have such close connections with the carriers and with our upstream partners, is so that we can educate them on our customer use case. That's what makes us different. And that's something that we will continue to scale as our company gets larger, because again, we believe people do business with people, and it is so critically important that we make sure that not only we know our customers, but our upstream partners know our customers too, so that you always get a white gloved, red carpet sort of experience. Jackson says, if you're able to get people messaging in 48 hours, I need your product. How can I integrate today? Okay, Jackson, great question. And yes, we want you to have our product as quickly as possible. Again, our team is working literally around the clock to get this done. And they are taking every opportunity that they can to make it done as quickly as possible. And so we anticipate, again, that this should be done. Again, I don't want to give timeframes, but it's going to be quick. We are digging into the APIs now. We want to give you a V1. If you want to be a part of that V1 and that beta group, as we are just bringing that connectivity online, please reach out to me, will@signalhouse.io. We do want to keep this to a smaller group so that we can interact with you on a one-to-one basis, learn about your business, learn what would be more helpful for you. So if you are the type of person where you're thinking, not only do I want to use a product that can get me approved in 48 hours, I want to help mold that product for my business and help that product be the best for people like me on this product, then please reach out, because we definitely want to connect and talk to you and get you on our product using it and providing us feedback, because feedback and the implementation of that feedback is how we grow, and we value our customers and want to do that. Okay, Maddie said, I Google 10 DLC campaigns and I see a bunch of different types. What would you recommend for my company? We send around 100,000 messages each month as a regional lawn care company. All right, Maddie, it's a great question, and you are kind of on the bubble. So I always say that if you send less than 6,000 SMS messages per day, you should be on a low volume mix. Now, 100,000 messages each month doesn't inherently mean that you send more than 6,000 messages a day. It just means that you send generally a fairly high volume over the course of an entire month. Now, because of what your volume is and because you are regional, I'm going to guess that you're still growing. I would 100% go with a standard use case campaign. It's only going to cost you $8.50 more per month for that standard use case. And what you're going to get out of it is quicker speed to lead, in the sense that you're able to send 240 messages per minute with AT&T versus 75 if you are on a low volume mixed campaign. I would go mixed. I would go customer care. I would go marketing, and I would go account notifications, just to make sure you're covering all your bases. But that's the strategy that I would go. And one benefit to standard campaigns, we have a whole video about this, so I won't belabor it too much right now. But one really cool thing about standard campaigns is that you can actually go through an additional vetting process, specifically standard vetting, where a company called Aegis or WMC Global will review your campaign and they'll review your company information a little bit more in depth. So instead of just lining up your information in an IRS database and seeing if the EIN matches the company name, they're going to look into your Better Business Bureau rating. They're going to look at any lawsuits. The most important thing, though, is how old your company is and how many individuals it has at the company. And they're going to assign it a score of between 1 and 100. So if it is a 25 or above, you are going to have an improvement in your throughput. That 25 mark is going to be an improvement for T-Mobile. It's going to change it from 2,000 messages a day to 10,000 messages a day. And so the most important thing to know with this is that if you do go standard and your company continues to grow, you can continue to grow the messaging throughput as well. So you can continue each year, every 6 months or so, to get a new score, increase that throughput up to 200,000 messages per day with T-Mobile and 4,500 messages per minute with AT&T. So you get a lot of throughput there. So it looks like the final question that we have today is from Trevor. Can recruiters use Signal House? I was told that I couldn't do recruiting with 10DLC. And so the answer, Trevor, is that yes, you absolutely can. We will help you get approved if you are struggling right now. Recruiting is one of those use cases that I have seen rejected a couple times for high risk. However, we are able to get that approved. We're able to work with our upstream providers, make sure that you are registering everything the right way so that you are able to get that approved. So yes, Trevor, 100%. We will be able to get you approved. So anyway, thank you guys so much. We're going to go ahead and end it here a tiny bit early, so give you a little bit of time back in your day. But we really appreciate everyone joining us today and learning a little bit more about this 10DLC ecosystem that we love so much, and about Signal House specifically. And so again, we are going to be releasing this GoHighLevel application sooner rather than later, and we are really excited for it. We think you're going to love it, and we think you're going to love it so much that we are again offering the opportunity to help you get verified and 10DLC elected on LeadConnector today, with the only ask that you demo and try out the Signal House product once we launch it. So we think you'll love it so much that we will be able to port that phone number from GoHighLevel directly over to Signal House, and you will be sending messages with the power of business messaging on Signal House before you know it. And so thank you so much for joining today. If you enjoyed this webinar, please feel free to join another one. So we are doing this every single Wednesday. If you're watching this on the VOD or the video on demand on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Share this with someone if you think it would be helpful and beneficial for them and their journey as well as a company. And just subscribe to our channel. We're posting videos over there 5 days a week, and that doesn't include the short content that we also put out every day as well. So we are packing that full of content for you to make sure that you have the tools that you need to be successful. So thank you so much.